Skies further west as we head into the weekend means a hint of blue on the chart. There will be a frost, particularly for Northern Ireland, parts of Wales on Saturday morning. Generally a dry and a bright day in the west. Further east, still some cloud and a few outbreaks of rain, which will start to move back into parts of northwest England, the Midlands and southeast England too. Perhaps brighter skies following in the extreme east. More rain coming into the west then later on. Temperatures again for most single figures, maybe double digits across the southwest. Bye for now.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dewbs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
to each and every one of you
for helping our great nation
find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales
and Northern Ireland. On TV,
on radio and online.
We're proud to be
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
On the Mark Stein Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Stein Show.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dewbs & Co. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dewbs & Co. I am Michelle Dewberry, this is Dewbs & Co. and we, ladies and gentlemen, are live from Southampton. Good evening, Southampton! Well, yes, it is indeed still 2022. I think we've still got a Conservative government, although today, if you've been paying close attention to the autumn budget, you might be fooled. Forgiven, should I say, for thinking perhaps we didn't have a Conservative budget after all. Why? Well, we've got the highest tax burdens now in about 7 decades. What on earth is going on? So tonight, we're going to get into the entire thing. I want your thoughts at home. I want the audience thoughts, and I want my panel's thoughts. So, before we get into exactly what went on today, let's throw back to Tamsin for our latest news headlines. Good evening.
Michelle, thank you. Here are the headlines from the GB newsroom. The Chancellor's delivered his plans to get the economy back on track as he acknowledges the UK's already in recession. As part of his autumn statement, Jeremy Hunt has reduced the threshold for the higher rate of income tax from £150,000 to just over £125,000. The state pension benefits and tax credits will rise in line with inflation by more than 10%. Millions of households will pay more in energy bills from April, the typical bill rising from £2,500 to £3,000 as the government reduces the level of support. And energy firms will be hit with an expanded windfall tax of 35%, up from 25%. The Chancellor has vowed to protect the poorest and believes his plan will help rebuild the economy.
What can we do with our plan for stability and our plan for growth? Well, the Office for Budget Responsibility, which is an independent organisation, they say that what we're doing will reduce the impact of that fall in living standards by half next year. So we are helping every bit as much as we can. And we're also saying to people that as we do that, we're protecting the public services that really matter, the NHS, schools, the things that are going to help us get through to the other side and become a really strong, dynamic economy, which is what we all want.
Following the statement, Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves accused the Conservatives of failing to learn from decisions made over the past decade.
This government has forced our economy into a doom loop, where low growth leads to higher taxes, lower investment and squeezed wages, with a running down of public services, all of which hits economic growth again. And instead of learning from the mistakes of the last decade, they're simply repeating them. We need to break free from this vicious cycle of stagnation with fairer choices and a proper plan for economic growth.
The Office for Budget Responsibility says household disposable incomes are heading for their biggest fall on record as the tax burden hits its highest level since the Second World War. In a fresh set of forecasts, the OBR says that once rising prices are taken into account, people's incomes would drop by 7% in the next 2 fiscal years. The government's forecaster also says that living standards won't recover to last year's levels for another 6 years. To America now, and Nancy Pelosi has stepped down as Speaker of the US House of Representatives. Her announcement comes after the Democrats lost the House to the Republicans in the midterm elections. The Republicans will swear in the new Speaker in January next year. Nancy Pelosi will stay in Congress as a backbench lawmaker.
And with great confidence in our caucus, I will not seek re-election to Democratic leadership in the next Congress. For me, the hours come for a new generation to lead the Democratic caucus that I so deeply respect.
The Royal College of Nursing says it will announce strike dates for December if the government fails to open up detailed negotiations on pay. Last week, members voted to strike at the majority of NHS employers across the UK. The RCN's campaigning for a pay rise of 5% above the rate of inflation. Meanwhile, ground handlers at London's Heathrow Airport will begin a 72-hour strike from tomorrow in a dispute over pay. The Unite union says the strike action is by workers at aviation services firm Menzies. It'll affect a range of airlines and disrupt a number of flights from Terminals 2, 3 and 4. Royal Mail has asked the government if it can cut its letter service to 5 days a week, putting an end to deliveries on Saturdays. It's after the business unveiled losses in the first half of the year, with strike action weighing heavily on the firm and further walkouts expected in the coming weeks. Parcel services would, however, continue to run every day of the week. A Dutch court has convicted 3 men for the murder of 298 people when shooting down a passenger flight over Ukraine in 2014. The convicted are 2 Russian former intelligence officers and a Ukrainian separatist leader. They'll serve life in prison. In addition to this, they have to pay at least £14 million in compensation for their role in the downing of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17. TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to Michelle in Southampton.
Thanks for that, Tamsin. Well, as I was saying, I am here in Southampton live with you right through until 7 o'clock this evening. Keeping me company is my panel, the policy researcher Laurie Laybourne and Emily Carver, who is the head of media at the Institute of Economic Affairs. And yes, You might have noticed I have a wonderful studio audience today. We do love it when we're out and about. I am with the good people of Southampton, and I'll be getting their thoughts as well. Let me start with my panel briefly. This whole kind of autumn budget, autumn statement, whatever we want to call it. Your summary thoughts on the whole thing, Laurie. And by the way, in case you're wondering how we're going to play tonight, we're going to get into all of it, specifically the taxes, the pensions, all of it in the next hour. But give me your overall thoughts, Laurie.
So we heard a lot about how bad the world economy is, war in Ukraine and so on. We've heard a lot, obviously, in recent weeks about how bad the mini-budget was. What was missing was a bit of honesty about how bad the last 12 years have been when it comes to investment in this country. Yesterday's cuts are today's long waiting lists, are the problems with our economy that are holding back the growth and the prosperity that we need right now. The NHS is a perfect example of this. For years now, the UK, the government, this government, has chosen not to invest in it as much as it probably needs. And that's particularly in the case of the kit that the NHS needs to make sure that it's driving good patient outcomes, keeping waiting lists low and so on. The maintenance bill, the unmet maintenance bill, is £10 billion. And we still find ourselves in that situation today with the autumn budget. Anyone who knows, who runs a small business, many small businesses here in Southampton, knows that you need to invest to get the profits of the future. It's the same thing when it comes to our economy. And government has a big role in that. And those cuts, that underinvestment, is leading us into some of the difficulty we find ourselves in today.
Emily Carver, your summary?
It was a miserable budget, wasn't it? He said there weren't going to be any rabbits pulled out of the hat, and there weren't. He said that everyone was going to be paying more taxes, and it looks like everyone is. Yes, benefits have gone up with inflation. Yes, pensions too. But for the ordinary working person, there's nothing in there, really.
We've got a phone already. It's only about 6:10.
Yeah, that was very quick.
It's my time up.
That was, yeah.
Right. Yes. Get your phone on silent, everyone. Right. Sorry, Emily.
Yes. So a miserable budget, not much there for the ordinary working person or the ordinary business person to make things a little bit brighter for them. I mean, what a change since Liz Truss's mini-budget that did turn out to be a car crash, but at least she wanted to get this country growing. At least she wanted to make some reforms that could actually change this country and make us more prosperous. It seems that we're back to penny pinching, abacus economics, thinking, oh, if we can tax this person a little bit more, we might get down debt. I think that there should have been much more of an emphasis on growth. And I think the Labour Party, you know, they could give them a right kicking, because there wasn't.
Well, there you go. That's the thoughts of my panel. I want to throw it out to the good people of Southampton. I'm very pleased, by the way. I think that was someone's alarm reminding themselves that they're supposed to be here celebrating tonight's event with us. So I appreciate your efficiency. But let me ask for a show of hands, everybody. Who in this room, and I laugh where I ask it because I think there might not be many people, but ever the optimist, who in this room is happy today with what was in the autumn budget? There must be at least one person in this room. Anybody? Yes, I found one. Sir, can you stand up? Can I get a microphone to you? I bet he wishes not put his hand up now. Sir, stand up. Tell us your name and tell me why you're happy tonight.
My name is Ola. The truth is, I am a Conservative voter. I'm a Tory member. But I think, to be fair, we've got to pay for the deficit. And the alternative, which is Labour, cannot do anything. I think, in terms of fairness and being responsible with our money, with the taxpayers' money, I think that the Chancellor has done something okay. As a Conservative, we don't want high taxes, but the truth is that the economy is gone down the drain. And somebody has to fix it. So for me, it's okay.
OK, well, yeah, he says the economy's gone down the drain, by the way. According to the OBR, we're officially in recession as we speak as well. Does anybody agree with that perspective? Anyone else feeling optimistic? See, it's not that hard, is it? Get your hands up, get involved. Anyone else quietly optimistic? If you're listening on the let me tell you, pretty much every Everyone else in the room is not optimistic. So I assume, therefore, if you've got your hands down, you're not optimistic. So who will put their hands up and tell me why? What are you feeling today? Don't be shy, or else this will be a very long show indeed. Right, there you go. There's a chap there, second row from the front. Can you stand up? Can I get a microphone to him? Tell me, what are you feeling today?
I don't think it's so important, the sort of... Sebastian, by the way. I don't think it's so important, the sort of meddling with percentage points here and there. One thing that was completely void was any sort of direction of cutting regulation and making business easier for people. It's really hard to set up a business in this country. It's really easy to move that business somewhere else. The tax code itself is incredibly long. Some people say it's longer than the Bible. I think the best way to get growth going is to make it easier for people to set up a business.
Right, well, there you go. Round of applause. A round of applause to that. So I want to say there's a real mixed bag in Southampton, but that would make me a liar, because there's not much of a mixed bag at all. The general sense of this room, at least, is that people are not massively optimistic with what was in that autumn statement today. What about you at home? Are you sitting there shouting at your screen, "Pick me, Michelle, pick me"? Well, I would have done if you'd have come here and put your hand up, wouldn't I? But if you're optimistic, I want you to tell me why. I want a bit of good news today. Rich emailed in and said, "It's pouring with rain, Michelle. Please, can you brighten up our spirits? We'll try." So if you are optimistic, get in touch with me and tell me why. Likewise, you know what, if you're not, get in touch too. gbviews@gbnews.uk is my email address, and you can tweet me at gbnews. So I'm going to give you at home a couple of minutes to gather your thoughts, send me an email, and I will be straight back. And what I want to get into when I come back is the whole thing about taxes. I mean, it's almost laughable now, quite frankly, isn't it? You've got a Tory government with the highest tax burden in 70 years. What a mess. I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Hello there, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, right through till 7 o'clock tonight with my panel policy researcher Laurie Laybourne and Emily Carver, who's the head of media at the Institute of Economic Affairs. Also, you may have noticed, you keen-eyed viewers, that I'm also joined by a studio audience, the delightful people of Southampton. Good evening. I have been asking you your thoughts tonight on this autumn statement. I am going to remain optimistic. I am sure that people are out there that are happy tonight. I have to be honest, I've not yet found you. You didn't come into my inbox over the 2-minute break. I'll give you the opportunity. If you're lurking, you're thinking to yourself, oh, shall I shout an email? Yes, because I want all the perspectives tonight. Are you someone who is sitting there going, stop with the negativity, Michelle, celebrate the goodness? If so, tell me then, what are these goodness? People like Steve, for example, says, what a mess. Someone else says, doomed, doomed, doomed. You're not on the fence there. And Warren says, Michelle, I love your red socks. Warren, I do appreciate there is a cost of living crisis, but I can actually afford shoes. These are not socks. These are shoes. Right, let's get... But thank you for your observation nonetheless. Right, let's get into the tax situation then, shall we? This whole thing, by the way, if you're wondering how we... Oh, yeah, a close-up on my boots. What a treat for you viewers at home. If you're wondering, by the way, how have we found ourselves in this situation in terms of the tax cuts, spending cuts, well, it's all about, isn't it, this £55 billion so-called black hole. I want to start with you, by the way, Emily. Do you even believe that concept? Because there's been a few economists out there that are saying we don't even really have this black hole. It's all down to the way the accountancy is done. In your mind, do we have a black hole? Did we need this budget today?
Well, we've got a big deficit and we've got a huge national debt. And that was made worse by the lockdown, which, of course, when Rishi Sunak spent billions and billions and billions while most of the economy was shut down and people were paid to stay at home, that was a choice. That's made the debt far worse. And, of course, Jeremy Hunt, who we all know was very, very pro a Chinese-style lockdown at that point, too. So these are things are worth remembering. On the fiscal hole itself, it's very much up for debate, as you say. Some people are wondering whether it's an over-exaggeration, it's overstated. Could it be that it might be far smaller, or that we can spend more time filling it? It's hard to say. I would have liked to see more emphasis on trying to get more taxpayer revenue in through boosting investment in this country, through boosting economic growth, that sort of thing that will bring in longer-term more tax revenue, instead of clobbering people and having this very short-termist view on trying to please the markets, keep everything steady in that way, please the OBR, please the Bank of England. But what about everyday citizens? What about all of us?
What about them? Let me talk to you about taxes specifically. Like I was mentioning a couple of times so far, I've not been subtle in my hints. We've got the highest tax burden in 7 decades. This is a Tory government, just in case you've forgotten, because they've changed so often, the chancellors. It's hard to keep up. All the tax thresholds, with the exception of the 45p one, remains solid, static until 2028, which, by the way, is kind of irrelevant because we're going to have an election before then. But anyway, we'll stick with the facts, 2028. Was that right in your mind?
Yeah, so for me, this feels like stealth taxes instead of wealth taxes. Now, let me explain that. In many ways, the amount of tax that the UK government takes in this country is quite low compared to other countries, right? Countries like Germany have got a higher tax take that they have, and it's no coincidence that they're growing faster than us, because that money is then spent on the things that drive growth, things like investments, right?
You're saying that high tax burden equals growth?
Well, no, I'm saying that money to spend on investments...
They've got a completely different economy to ours.
Money to spend on investments to then drive that growth is what we need in this country. Now, that's not me saying... Often when we talk about tax, we assume that it means everyone blanket has higher taxes, right? That many of the people in this room have those higher taxes. Instead, we could make the political choice to put taxes on places that could bear that burden a bit more.
What?
Like, for example, a 1%, little 1% tax on people with assets over, say, worth of £10 million, which would raise about £10 billion, right? If we were to
what do you
close...
mean 1%? So you've got an asset, let's just say your house, your primary residence is...
If you're earning 10 million... Yeah, if you're...
income?
No, much of that will come from wealth for people earning that amount of money, right? So if we're taxing 1% on the wealth of the people who are earning... whose income is over 10 million...
Year, though?
Huh?
Very short-termist. What do you do next time?
Well, hang on,
you level
theory. So if you've got a salary of £10 million,
no,
I want to know if you're single.
It's people
after that we've ascertained that, you want to do what?
We are bad in this country at taxing wealth, right? We're very good. Governments are very good at taxing our income if we're working. They're not so good at taxing wealth. So, for example, overall, we, as a percentage of our money that we're getting in as workers, paying more than the people who are getting a lot of their money from sitting on assets, paintings, many houses and so on. So there's always been an argument in this country, which I think is right, to make sure that we're having an approach to people earning income from that wealth, from those assets.
But they have changed that. They've cut the tax-free dividend stuff. They've today cut the capital gains threshold in terms of tax-free.
They could have closed the non-dom loophole, for example. This is a classic example of how you need to... It's not the blanket sort of, we need to impose taxes on everyone. It's we need to make sure that we're targeting taxes on places that traditionally have not been taxed so much, right?
May I just make one point on the wealth tax issue? Because it does sound good, a lot of people with big assets, perhaps we can just, tax them a little bit more and we'll all be happy and have lots more money to spend on things like the NHS. But the problem is that wealth taxes have been tried and they've failed where they were tried. So France has had all sorts of different wealth taxes. What happened? You had millionaires move out of the country. You had people hide their assets. You had so much bureaucracy because it came down to even what your painting in your big drawing room is worth. They tried to calculate what every single asset you had was worth, and they didn't make barely any money out of it. And also, if you deplete someone's assets one year, what are you going to do next year? You'll have less to tax.
You're not.
So it's very short-termist, and the only way to get the tax revenue up is, unfortunately, to tax everyone.
No, I don't think that's the case. I mean, I think in Britain we do a better job than France when it comes to making sure that we levy those wealth taxes effectively. And it's not 100% tax on certain bits of wealth we're calling for, which mean that you'd run those taxes down. It's just a small amount. Like, in this country, we have been in a situation where we do not tax wealth as much as we're taxing income, and I just think that's unfair.
Why don't we try and grow the pie instead?
Yes, let's grow the pie, everyone.
But you need to make... But hang on a minute. You need to make those investments. We cannot grow the pie if we've got massive waiting lists in our health service, and to the point where the labour market, where the people who are out there working and growing that pie are held back from...
I agree, but the NHS, we're spending upwards of £170 billion a year on the NHS. We need to be talking to NHS management and finding out why on earth we have NHS waiting lists so long and why money isn't going to the front line.
Agreed. I agree. But on that very quickly, right, it's often we think we're just like, we're chucking this cash into the NHS and we're not getting outcomes. Absolutely right that we think that, because we're clearly not. But we have to think about where that money is going. Again, I must stress that money has not gone into upgrading the kit, the basic maintenance bill, for example, that will help get those waiting lists down. And just to say, every single country in the world is spending lots of money on its health system. It is a fundamental thing for our society to spend that money. If we look at the European average of how much money they are spending every year, increasing their health budgets, we're on average 40 billion a year lower than they are investing in their health system.
Lest we forget, by the way, that we turned our National Health Service into a national COVID service. If we hadn't have bothered doing all of that stuff, we might be in a better position on the wealth tax and the income tax thing. Let's also not forget that the top 1% contribute, I think it's about 28% of all income tax receipts as it is. Let me ask the people of Southampton, specifically about income tax, if you will, everyone. Who here is... let's ask this. Is anyone here feeling that you pay too much income tax? This is either a shy audience, because I can tell you, if I didn't want to show you my armpits, I'd have my hands up. I can tell you. I found one. There you go. Tell me, stand up, sir. Give me your name.
My name's Godfrey.
Hello, Godfrey. Tell me, tax.
I think I pay too much tax because I look at what the government does and the way they spend our money, and I'm appalled. I mean, I'm absolutely appalled. I mean, what?
Hang on a minute. You're all clapping, but then you didn't think you paid too much tax 2 minutes ago. Anyway,
how it's being spent.
I'm a generation where, we learned to scrimp and save when we had to scrimp and save.
Yes.
I've lived through the 3-day week. I've lived through, having your electricity turn off, and we learn now. But what do I see the government doing? The way they spend money is just unbelievable. I mean, quangos, I see, dare I point out, we don't have an old Range Rover parked outside. We have a 22-plate Range Rover to take people around. And I mean, I ask you,
Well, yes, I hear
understand
you.
listening to Patrick Christie, apparently...
He's got a list, look. He's got a whole... He's got... Godfrey has come prepared. I like it. Go on, Godfrey.
£779 on cakes to welcome back the office staff after lockdown. That's what the government spent.
Should have gone to Greg, shouldn't they? Other cafes are available, of course. Anything else on your list, Godfrey, before I go to someone else?
Yeah, £5,393 on storytelling training by an ecologist.
An ecologist?
I mean, do our MPs need to know anything about storytelling? They're the best in the world, surely.
Well, Godfrey, I like your sound. I like your sound. Thank you ever so much. There was a lady here that wanted to say something, so I believe. Can I have a microphone? Oh, there's another lady there. Hang on, let me just get a microphone to you. Go on.
Hello, so my name's Elizabeth. I just
Hello,
wanted
Elizabeth.
to make a point. I'm a small business owner.
Yeah.
Up until the summer, my vision was to invest into my company and grow and grow. And because of all of this rhetoric, that growth now has stopped. We now have to protect the staff that I'm paying. I've got 8 members of staff. I've got a fantastic team. But now I've got to protect my clients who are all cutting back. And now I have to protect my staff. So this isn't about growth over the next year for me. This is about protecting my jobs in my company.
Let me ask you specifically, because one of the things today, so if you're a small business owner with staff, this might impact you. So you will have seen that the national living wage, as it's now called, has gone up from £9.50, or it will be going up. What will that do to you as a business owner? Can you absorb that increase in wages or not?
So I had to look at this over the summer. Because of the inflation rate was going up, I had to make a decision. Do I want to keep my staff? So in the last month, I've made inflation-busting pay rises. And I thought, OK, that's great. We've got a good plan for growth for the next year. You know, we had good, steady clients coming into us. And again, that's all gone today. I now have to protect those staff. I don't want to lose those staff. They are fantastic for me and my business. And now my whole thing is to protect my staff and get them paid.
Well, I'll give you a round of applause for that, because there's too many bad bosses around. Thank you. I think there was a lady there. Can you stand up, get a microphone? Hello?
Hi. I just wanted to say that I'm disappointed with the money that we spend on the National Health Service, when, to me, it's not about what the money we spend. We need to fix the problems at the top of the National Health Service. The management at the top needs to be sorted out. I think we need to get the army in there, somebody like logistically. To sort out. It needs to be logistically looked at, because there's so much wastage. You get a letter from the NHS, from the hospital, you get one day, and then one comes the next day. So all that is just utter waste of money. And I just think what we spend on the National Health, it's not so much what the money is, it's just the wastage.
How effective it is. I think she makes a very good point there, doesn't she? Thank you.
Can I ask a question to the audience?
Can you ask her? He wants my job.
Can I- Is that what kind of be
Question to
cheeky?
the audience. Go on then, you can take my role. Go on.
Put your hand up if you think that taxes on the wealth of the very wealthiest are too low in this country.
Qualify what you mean by the very wealthiest, because I think there's a bit of politics of envy going on here. So go on, who do you mean?
Fair play to them, as long as they're doing it productively, right?
No, qualify. If you're going to ask them about the wealthy, tell them what you mean by the wealthy.
So people whose assets are worth more than £10 million.
Assets that have been bought by taxed revenue.
No. If someone is sitting on, let's say, 5 homes that are worth in total £10 million.
There aren't that many people like that.
But do we think that they're?
Really
Do we
aren't.
think that they're taxed
Anyway,
too
go on,
little or
indulge
too?
him. Go on. Ask him your question then. So now that we've qualified, if someone's got 5 houses worth £10 million...
Do we think the assets of the very wealthiest are taxed too low in this country? Put your hand up if you think that's the case.
1 at the back. There you go. 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're listening, not watching, most people don't agree with Laurie. He's not happy about that.
No, as in people think that they're taxed too low.
Yeah, but only 5 people think that. Out of an audience of about 100.
My question was...
Look, he's qualifying it. Look, go on then, Laurie. Go on, qualify it.
Put your hands up if you think taxes on the very wealthiest should be a bit higher than they maybe are at the moment.
Yes. Yeah. I've got to say, everyone, If you're listening, not watching, you don't know what on earth's going on, let me wrap it up for you. Laurie's doing a very good job of trying to get people to share his vision about these people that have worked hard, they've paid their taxes, they've invested their taxed revenue, taxed income, and then they've made a bit more profit. Laurie wants them to pay even more. Most people, sensible folk in this room, don't agree with him. So on that note, I'll hand it over to you at home. Do you agree with him? Get in touch, gbviews@gbnews.uk, and tell me if you do. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one, and I'll see you guys in a couple of minutes.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Friday and Sunday night from 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
We're on the same page again. There's something weird happening.
Let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky.
That mini budget was the tip of the iceberg.
And on Saturday, my show just got bigger. From 8, it's Mark Dolan's Saturday Night In.
You can't govern a country if you can't speak.
Stop talking. My God, we reached the end. I've never been early in my life. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. There's never been a more interesting but also critical time in British politics, and I can't wait to bring you the biggest stories of the day with the best factual accuracy and also a few of my own opinions thrown in. We'll engage in passionate but always polite debate with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12 on TV, on radio and online.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
To Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock tonight. My panel, policy researcher? Policy researcher.
I do a lot of different policies.
That means a completely different thing where I'm from. Policy researcher Laurie Laybourne, and Emily Carver as well is the head of media at the Institute of Economic Affairs, keeping me company tonight. I've got to say in the break, by the way, these lot negotiating with Laurie to try and come up with a separate question, a different way of asking the question.
Can we ask it?
No, you can't ask it. Everyone,
unlucky.
Everyone thinks that they've got my job tonight because Jack at home, he sent me a question saying, Michelle, can you ask this question to the audience, please? Yeah, go on. Anyone else? Anyway.
What's the question?
Jack says, please can you ask everyone in Southampton this? In terms of the Tory party and the Labour Party, I think Jack basically feels that they're not cutting the mustard. So he's asking, if there was a strong alternative party to vote for in the next general election, would you go for it? Hands up. Show me hands. Jack at home, you can have my job if you want, if it all goes wrong for me. You got a good rise out the audience. The short answer, if you're listening, not watching, was pretty much everyone said yes to that. Right, in my view anyway, it should always be that if you're able-bodied, able-minded, you should be wanting to get out and go and work, provide for yourself, provide for your family. But the autumn statement today has had a lot of criticism, some saying that it almost de-incentivises people going to work. Yeah. Why, I hear you ask? Well, because of the news today that benefits will rise in line with inflation. Of course, I have to remind you here two things. Number one, I do realise that some people that claim benefits, of course, do work. But the other side to remind ourselves of here is that also average wages, they are not rising by inflation. So you have this whole kind of disproportionate rise for some people, if you will, that are on benefits. The other news as well, and don't worry, before you shout at me at home, you're going to say to me this is not a benefit, but the pensions, the triple lock, that is going to be respected. So the pensions will be rising by 10.1% as well. I'm loath to put those two things in the same bracket because pensioners, a lot of them have worked, they've contributed to the system. So I don't really want to put that in the same basket as this for now. So let's just pick on the benefits in terms of rising with inflation. Was that the right decision, Emily?
I can see why they did, but it's hard when people's wages are only going up by about 5.7% on average, and then benefits will be going up by 10.1%, I think, with that inflation rate that was. So it is hard to... It does seem like the government is happy to squeeze the productive part of the economy, people who are going out to work, businesses and individuals, while they then hand it to people who are out of work or unproductive. Of course, now there are millions of people in this country who are on out-of-work benefits. A lot of them will be for good reason. They may be sick. They may be disabled. There may be many reasons why they're not working. But since the pandemic, hundreds of thousands of people have been added to that list. We've got huge numbers of people who are out of work, who could be working and should be working. We have labour market shortages in this country. There are lots of jobs out there if you are looking for them. So I hope that the government, and they are doing this to their credit, they have said that they're going to clamp down on this and try and get more people into work and clamp down on benefit fraud and all such things. So I'm hoping that we can get some more of those people out there working in the economy, and then they're contributing as well, because that's so important. If you're asking more of taxpayers, you know, there needs to be a sense that everyone's in it together.
Laurie, do you agree in terms of benefits rising in line with inflation?
I mean, I think an immensely hard time for people with rising energy prices and stuff, that you need to give them help if they're on benefits that needs to go up with inflation. I mean, I think that anything less than that is going to push even more people into hardship than already are in the country.
But let me put the flip side to you, because I know people at home as well will be writing this in. They will be saying that nobody wants anyone to suffer, least of all the people that, you know, are earning the least, etc. But in a scenario where everybody has to feel a pinch, everyone has to tighten their belts, we're all in this together, do you not think that that should apply to the benefit system?
But we're not all in it together, are we? As we were talking about earlier, there are, you know, sure, I got copped out when we were talking about a wealth tax and stuff, right? But if we were raising, you know, fair play. And I also agree with what people are saying. People who are earning their wealth productively, totally, I'm all for that. But we were just talking in the break about, say, some of the tech giants who are not paying the taxes they should in this country. We're talking about the energy companies who made vast profits, not because they've suddenly invented new technologies that make them more profitable. It's because Putin decided to invade Ukraine and shoot energy prices high. So we're not all in it together. We're not... If this government is saying, hey, guys, we all need to come together and deal with this very hard time, I, of course, agree with that rhetoric. I want to help. Like anyone, I think, in this country wants to pitch in. But it's not correct that we really are in it together. So I think it's very difficult for us to focus on people, many of whom are also in work, who are receiving benefits, to say, well, you've got to take the pinch in a big way, when there are other people who have got extraordinarily broad shoulders all the way out here who are making massive amounts of money, and we're not taking some of that in tax instead.
Let me ask the audience here in Southampton. I'm going to move on to pensions in just a second, but on this whole kind of situation with the benefits, the rise in line with inflation, any strong feelings in the room about that? Anyone? Yes, a gentleman here. Can I get a microphone? Tony's... Yeah, one answer on this one. Go on.
I just think it's outrageous.
What is?
The rise with inflation.
Why?
Because the average worker's taking 5% wage rise. It's no incentive to work. You might as well sit on your backside and claim the benefits and get 10% rise.
But what about if someone's, I don't know, got caring responsibilities so they can't go to work?
Different. But if they got caring responsibilities, they're not claiming unemployment benefit, are they?
No, but they will be claiming some benefits.
Yeah, but that side of it is OK. But all the people on unemployment benefit getting 10% for sitting on their backsides...
Then it's not for you.
Outrageous.
not for you. And I have to say, a lot of people in my inbox as well do share that sentiment. Let's bring it into pensions as well, if I may. Emily, the triple lock is remaining. Pensions going to go up by 10.1%. The right decision?
It's a really difficult one, and I can see both sides on it. There's a lot of young people who are working who complain constantly about the triple lock. They say it's not fair at a time when it's so difficult to get on the housing ladder, when they're not getting higher wages, when their wages aren't going up with inflation. You know, older people have so much wealth, they have houses, they have assets. You know, why should their pensions be going up? But on the other hand, there seems to be a mischaracterisation of a lot of pensioners. Not all pensioners are sitting there in you know, £1 million houses, having a great time. A lot of them are living on very, very measly amounts of money. So I think a compromise would be for it to be a little more means-tested. And that's to say with lots of benefits for older people. So, you know, bus passes. I don't think my dad and mum need to have a free bus pass, to be honest.
I don't think Alan Sugar needs one either, quite frankly.
They're only 62, they're still working.
Well, yeah, where do you stand on the pension side?
Yeah, I mean, I largely agree with that. I think that the broad thing that we're talking about here is the fact that we, again, like I said at the beginning, we're suffering from certain underinvestment. We're in a situation where look, it's like a car or a house. If you fail to make the repairs that pop up every now and again over time, then you're just storing up trouble later, right? So we're in a situation now where we got hit by this energy shock, right? Which is not our fault. We didn't choose to go and invade Ukraine and shoot the energy price higher. But if the government had made investments earlier on, for example, in things like energy efficiency and so on, we would have been better protected now. Like the government, in not having invested in key areas in society, has made us more vulnerable when shocks have come along, and that's happened now. And then what it means in that moment is that we all were in the situation where, like, oh my goodness, the country's in a very difficult position. Rightly, some people are going to have to make painful decisions and so on, but we would have been in a far better place if the government had been investing.
Not this government, by the way, successive ones. Emily, just hold that thought 1 second, if you don't mind, because I just want to hear from people here about the pensions. What about this triple lock? Who in this room has strong feelings about the triple lock, whether or not it should have been respected or not? Anybody? Oh, quite a few. Let's go to the lady here at the front. Hello. Can I get a microphone? Do you want to stand up?
Yeah. Hi, Penny. Hi.
Hello, Penny.
Michelle. I've mixed feelings. I'm quite advantageous, but I worked hard and paid taxes and whatnot all my life. What I thought, though, today was, OK, they're going to keep this triple lock, which is terribly unfair to the youngsters. I totally agree, as my grandson's always telling me. But there's also a freeze on the personal allowances. So, you know, people who have got good pensions as well, you know, topped up, not just a state pension, they're going to have their personal allowance frozen anyway. So this triple lock, yeah, very nice. But I would imagine there'll be quite a few pensioners who are quite well off saying, well, actually, it won't be that advantageous.
Because you're losing it somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm a bit sort of cagey about means tests, because I remember my parents going on about means tests and how unfair it was back in the 30s, 1930s, of course. So, you know...
Well, you don't think, for example, I'll pick on my old boss, Alan Sugar, you don't think he deserves an extra 10%? Well, deserves is the wrong word, but you don't think he should probably... So when we talk about means testing, there are some people that just basically... I mean, come on. You shouldn't be getting this extra 10%, should you? Alan Sugar, wherever you are.
It seems...
I'm sure he's at home watching this.
It does seem... very generous.
Indeed. Thank you very much. There was someone else here that had very strong opinions behind me. See, this is the topic that's got people talking. I'll hear from this gentleman here and then that chap there in the black after you. But can I just come to this guy here? Yep. Yes, you? You lucky man.
Okay, thank you. I broadly agree with what Emily said and this lady
Can you talk into microphone so we can all hear you? Do you want to stand up as well so they can see your delightful self?
Here I am. Yeah, I broadly agree with what you say.
No, you need to talk into this because you're pointing the cat here.
Okay. I broadly agree with yourself, Emily, and also this lady. The decision or the policy about the pension, the triple lock, it's a political decision because pensioners tend to vote Conservative.
Ah, yes.
And I don't think this government want to alienate their core supporters. That's the first thing. The second thing, I don't think we need to be talking in terms of a means test. There ought to be some sort of threshold above which you don't get the triple lock, you don't get the 10%. A lot of pensioners have got dividends from investments, They've got very generous occupational pensions. They're not deserving of the state pension to be maintained consistent with the rate of inflation. That just seems grossly unfair. For the reasons you said about how the young people feel, they've got student debts.
Yeah.
They're perhaps unlikely to inherit property. They can't save up for a mortgage because they're paying market rates for rental property, which are going up because the buy-to-let industry is going to be shafted with the
Well, you make a very good point about the younger person.
Capital gains tax, etc., etc. So although I'm a pensioner, I'm in my 70s, I'd be quite happy. Let me put it like this. I wouldn't have been unhappy had I not been awarded the inflation sort of maintaining increase on my state pension.
Thank you very much. You mentioned a younger person. I don't know how I've ended up with this microphone, but there was a younger person. There was a younger person there. I can't get off my chair because I'm microphoned into my chair. So someone here.
Allow me.
Yeah. And then after this one, I'm going to go to the break. So your thoughts on pensions, sir?
Yeah, I think genuinely as a community, as a country, the older people we should be looking out for. I don't think the pension should be even close to being reduced or anything. You look at any of the past, you always look after your elders.
What a nice
I don't care how much money they've... Also, to the younger ones, I don't know if I'm still classed as young, I'm 30, but in about 40 years, 50 years, we're going to be needing that pension.
Yes.
And if you let the government attack it now, there is going to be nothing left when we need it.
Very good point, my friend. Very good point. Be careful what you wish for. And I tell you what, it's nice, isn't it, just to hear some nice values there. Look after the elderly, because for, lots of reasons, in lots of instances, that just doesn't happen, does it? I'm going to take a quick break. gbviews@gbnews.uk is the email. Get in touch with me, and when I do come back, I will have some of your thoughts from home, I promise. I'll see you in 2.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dewbs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh, my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
to each and every one of you
for helping our great nation
find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
on radio
and online.
We're proud to be
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
On the Mark Stein Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Stein Show.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dewbs & Co. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dewbs & Co. With me, Michelle Dewberry. I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock tonight. Keeping me company, the policy researcher Laurie Laybourne, and also Emily Carver, who's the head of media at the Institute of Economics. What a lucky bunch we are, because we're here in Southampton. This wonderful audience keeping me company. So, for my last, what have I got now? 5-10 minutes on this programme? It flies when you're having fun. So I'm going to open it up to you wonderful people. Well, let's talk budget. Anything that anyone wants to get off their mind that we have not yet covered. Hands up. Look at this. Lots of people. Lady in the red on the front row. Let's go. Oh, pink. Oh, someone. It's a cost of living crisis. I can't afford glasses wipes. Go on. Hello.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
I'd like to ask this gentleman.
Laurie.
You said that the country's in this state because of the war in Ukraine. What about because it shut down the economy for 2 years?
Yes. Yes. And just on that, by the way, we did things like spend £849 million on that whole help out to eat out. So she makes a very good point. It's not just about the Ukrainian situation and all the things that we're led to believe. It is about that, the thing that you can't mention these days, the choices that we made. You make a very good point. He can answer you afterwards. Anyone else got something that they want to raise? There's a chap there. You've got a very straight arm movement there. I like that. Blue shirt. Stand up so we can see your handsome looks.
I think the problem is not the actual wealth that the government take, be it either party. The whole system, it's the way they spend it, the procurement,
yes,
the way that the IT wastage, and just things that are out of touch with the general public. They're throwing money and not listening to any sensible small businessman, any household. If I wanted a new roof on my house, I get 3 prices.
Yes.
And I go out to an open market. I don't go to those favoured companies that are Serco or whatever that have always been on board. The MOD is another one. The recruitment, the wastage is just insane.
He makes a very good point there. Efficiency, especially when it comes to things like procurement. Who else? Something that you want to get off your chest? Anything on this side? You've been nice and quiet. There you go, chap there. Microphone to this chap. Hello, stand up, sir.
Hey, is it true that the field duty's going up?
Well, you make a very good point because this wasn't actually listed in the autumn budget, but it was featured in the OBR. Liam Halligan, by the way, will be joining us in a few minutes on the Nigel Farage programme. Him and Nigel Farage will be getting into that. You make an excellent point, so that will be answered in the next few minutes. Anyone else? You, Sarah, at the front row. Stand up, let's see you.
Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Andrew.
Yes, I wasn't aware that we voted for a Labour government, to be honest.
Yes.
I'm very worried that the philosophy and ideology of giving people more of their own money, reducing the tax burden on ordinary working families, and why hasn't VAT been cut? I don't understand. I'm very worried that the defenestration of quasi-Kwarteng and trusts has doomed the free market belief system for a generation in this country, especially among the political class, because it's had such a lasting effect on the Conservative Party that they've brought in 2 people who weren't even elected as leaders or chancellors. No, Hunt was bottom of the leadership challenge. I don't know why he's Chancellor.
Well, there you go. Why is he Chancellor? That? What a wonderful note to end the audience questions on. I don't know the answer. Do you? Why is Jeremy Hunt the Chancellor? You tell me. Right, I'm almost out of time. Final quick words to you, Laurie, and to you, Emily. Go, Laurie.
So I'll take the question there. Yeah, I agree. Massive mistakes were made in the COVID pandemic. What did you say? It was
not mistakes, choices.
Choices.
849 million
on help out to eat out. Unbelievable.
A lot of that went to me, to be honest. Won't lie.
Yeah, well.
Go on. Come on. We all went out. We were eating out about 4 times a week, everyone. It was a joke, wasn't it?
The procurement point as well is a good one. Giving your mates contracts for PPE that didn't work and so on. It's an absolute disgrace. But we must remember these are choices that are made by politicians in governments, and those choices could be different. We could have invested in public services and the things that gets their country
going. Go on, Emily. Go on.
And choices, different choices.
Go on, Emily.
Yeah, I mean, I think that last point was absolutely spot on because Liz Truss and Kwasi messed things up and didn't set the scene, didn't lay the ground for the changes they were going to make. Now it seems like we've got a Chancellor and a Prime Minister who are overcorrecting everything, and I think we are in a state of managed decline at the moment.
Right, well, there you go. Do not go anywhere. Nigel Farage is up next. Stuart, he's been in touch saying, I, for one, am very happy about today's budget. You say, we've basically been on a massive bender for the last 2 years, paying people to stay at home and do nothing. Now it's time for the country to pay the bar tab. I'll leave you with that thought. Do not go anywhere. This conversation will continue with Nigel Farage at 7.
Good evening, I'm Alex Deakin and this is your latest weather update from the Met Office. Tomorrow will be a drier day for many of us, but it is still going to be very, very wet across parts of eastern Scotland with potential for flooding. This area of low pressure is responsible. It's just slowly creeping up the eastern side at the moment, and around it the winds are just feeding in a lot of moisture, and that means plenty more rain across the eastern parts of Scotland. We have an amber weather warning coming into force at midnight, covering parts of Perth and Kinross, Aberdeenshire and Angus, and a broader yellow warning still in place across much of eastern Scotland.